Hello and welcome everybody to McDuff Lives. I'm John O'Loughlin. Joining me this Friday for our Friday live chat is Marcia Keith. And so happy Halloween and let's go. And welcome everyone. I'm John O'Loughlin, and joining me for our Friday live chat is my wife, Marcia Keith. Hi, Marcia.
Hi, John. Happy Halloween to you and to everyone out there joining us today.
Yes, well, it is that day, the 31st of October, and it's appropriately chilly and sunny and pretty, and the leaves are turning, and it's nice
It is
in a way.
appropriately.
Yeah.
It's interesting when you say appropriately because I spent my good trick-or-treating years in the very southern part of the country. So even on Halloween, it was never cold. There might be a nip in the air, but then again, there might not.
Yeah.
You could probably walk around in shirt sleeves. So, yeah, the sort of fall feeling with Halloween is nice. It's not something I experienced as a child, but I sure enjoy it as an adult.
Mm. Well, my childhood was a long, long time ago.
Oh, as was mine.
Not nearly so far as mine, but I enjoyed Halloween a great deal. And so we were a gang of those kids in the time when you'd get somebody's mother would drive you to another neighborhood, and you could
Oh,
you could hit
wow.
like we lived in one, but we would drive over to the other one and hit all those houses too. By the time we got done, we had a huge a grocery bag full of
Uh-huh.
things that we probably should never have eaten, like candy corn and all that.
All that sugar.
But it really
But it was real
was.
sugar back then, too.
And the real prize was the full-sized Three Musketeers bar.
Oh,
If you got
man.
one of those, you really hit it. You really hit it right.
I don't remember ever getting those. Maybe I did. I don't know. But it's funny. I always went trick-or-treating with my big sister.
Uh-huh.
So I don't remember my parents being there. They probably were, but kept their distance. And probably when we were even, very, very small, they were, and I just don't remember. But what I remember is trick or treating with my big sister, and whatever she did, I did.
Okay. Well, this week has been to me a combination of working on my opera,
Mm-hmm.
and going through my score and making sure I know all my entrances and everything. And so it takes a little bit away from my attention to current events. But one thing that has caught my eye this week has been this Professor Jang, who I did a show about yesterday. I know you haven't seen that one yet,
All right, I missed that one.
but introducing Professor Jang, I think he's very important because he is representing uh, the teaching of American and world history to students at the elite high schools in Peking, China. And but he's teaching it in English. So obviously these are kids that are also good at English.
Mm-hmm.
And so but the narrative that he tells about Western history, about American history, it's all very, very chilling narrative. It's like he takes out all the good stuff and turns us into these, uh, bad people that love violence, and only way we solve anything is with war. And he's also predicting World War III is not far off at all. I haven't watched that video of his yet, but he's on YouTube and he's getting a lot of circulation. So that tells me that there's power behind promoting this narrative that Professor Zhang is teaching to his Chinese students, and by sharing his videos is teaching to everybody in the world. And of course, these videos now on YouTube YouTube will automatically translate them into different
Hmm.
languages. So it's something that I think is going viral. And if if people haven't been taught American history, like they haven't been, as I understand, the high schools are just really just slightly touching on history. And the part that they do teach is the bad part about slavery and how, uh, the wiping out of the Native Americans and all of the bad stuff.
The stuff we weren't taught.
But the stuff that gives a dystopian view of America as this is just a cesspool of lack of morality, racism, sexism. Uh,
Well, let me ask you this. Think about how we view the Chinese or how we view the Russians, how we view those countries and cultures that we perceive as possibly threatening our way of life. Do we teach our children an objective and clear narrative about those cultures? Or is ours equally skewed?
well, I don't know because I haven't really been in one of those public schools in many, many, many years, or even a private school. But what concerns me is the overemphasis on the uh, uh, the elements of what is called cultural Marxism, the teaching of how this group is discriminated against and that group is discriminated against, and the whole idea of, instead of having us thinking about what we all have in common and having a common future, that we all have different stories, we all have different narratives. And this, of course, is the insidious way to destroy a nation, by destroying the national narrative. So when you ask what do we teach about Russia or China, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't know. But
Well, we also portray them in the media too, and I think there is a tendency to in cultures in general to say these are the good guys, us, we are the good guys, and they are the bad guys, and they're the bad guys because, and then we tell whatever story it is we want to tell about what it is bad about them. I think that that is a common practice everywhere.
hmm, I don't know. I don't see it really myself. I think there is an attempt to be accurate, especially about things that have happened, 200, 300, 400 years ago. But when we talk about, what do you teach about the Russians, as if the Russians had a national character and they're evil, or they want to take over Europe, or they're communists, or Trump or Putin is a dictator, or what do we think about Russians today? Well, it kind of depends upon what newspaper you read. I mean, it kind of depends upon who your sources are. It's like Russiagate. The whole Russiagate story is based upon, first of all, America and Russia are enemies. We've got to be enemies, or else the Russiagate story doesn't work.
Right.
So, who thinks that Russia is our enemy? Well, generally, the people that think Russia is our enemy are the ones that supported the Biden campaign, and because one of the major points in their campaign was that Trump was colluding with Russia, and this was proven by the Steele dossier and the Russiagate thing, which
Well, there you go.
we
See,
know is
we're portraying the Russians as corrupt.
right. Right, that's right. And in order, but for political purposes in this
Sure.
in this case,
In
in
this
other words,
case, right.
that's just the Democrats and the Rhino Republicans saying Trump is a bad guy because he loves Putin, who we all agree is a bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, the Trump campaign was trying to avoid war by negotiating with Putin and making inroads into how can Russia and America live together. That picture is consistent with a lot of MAGA people, that they thought, yeah, why can't we have peace? What's wrong with having peace with Russia? Well, having peace with Russia violates the entire narrative that supports the military-industrial
Indeed.
complex.
Yeah.
And so, whoever says peace with Russia is going to get a whole lot of opposition from very powerful groups. Trump appeared to withstand the opposition and win the election. However, as we watch the news, we see that no, he's just also saying, Trump, Putin bad, more sanctions on Putin. Putin's impeding the peace process in Ukraine. And so is Trump now also subject, as we suspect always, to the same military-industrial complex that was controlling the Biden administration?
Well, I think that part of the challenge that we face is that the world is very complex. And that complexity allows for a variety of interpretations because you can focus in on this nuance or that nuance and make that the key to your argument, depending on how you want the argument to go. In other words, it's not all one way or another. It's not all good and bad. It's not all black and white. It's not all red and blue or up and down or whatever. There are so many shades of gray in between. And so we can use that to skew our discussions and skew the perceptions, when the bottom line is it's just a very complex situation that requires more than uh, a bifurcated approach. It's not all one or the other.
We are often faced with situations that don't make sense. Like the Charlie Kirk shooting, for instance, or the Butler, PA shooting, for instance. Any of these, supposed lone nut shooter incidents, when you look at them, including JFK, they don't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
So the public is now caught without an anchor into what's really true. And that's where they want us.
Yes.
They want us to not have a sense of
Yes.
understanding of, this is what the world's about. These are the powers that play. This is what I believe because I have studied history and, whatever else. But this is my place. I belong in this country. This is good. This is a good country. And I want to support it. That all gets that requires a certain ability to stand on your feet and believe that you're standing on firm ground.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't feel like you're standing on solid ground, but that it can just shift any time, then that takes away your ability to confront things with reason and intelligence, and instead drives you into the fear or fight or flight mode.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the psyop that's been going on since World War II, is to, and before that, going back to Edward Bernays and Edward Mandell House and all, the idea that propaganda used properly is a great political tool because it can keep the masses from revolting by giving them a simple narrative that they will then be forced to believe because it's going to be in the schools and the narrative. Indeed. And the churches.
Yes,
everybody's going to be pitching the same narrative. And now what do we find out is that with the internet and with, the social media, that a lot of people are smart enough to kind of see beyond the narrative and to start pulling back the scenery and looking for the real truth behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's the answer to that? Censorship. Because they are the powers that be behind the scenes that know what's really going on. They are so invested in us believing the narrative that they can't let us, peek behind the curtain. They can't let Toto grab that curtain and pull it back so that we see, the professor pulling all of the levers and spinning the dials in his, narrative.
That's right. In
narrative.
his propaganda machine.
Exactly. Or,
Yeah.
what the CIA calls the great Wurlitzer, spinning out tune after tune to spin everything out of our ability to understand. And that's why we have so many narratives about the JFK killing, is because they encouraged it. They said, yeah, send out 100 narratives. That will, be the safest place for us, because they'll never know.
Well, Brightmore is here this morning with a lot on his mind. Trump, after 12 out of 10 meeting with Xi, announced renewed testing of nukes, a plan to help South Korea build a nuclear sub, and the Pentagon pushed back against Netflix's House of Dynamite, in which a character states that the U.S. anti-missile defense system only has a 50% effectiveness rate. Sounds like our owners want us to think about the threat of nukes. Yeah, and Trump has now said that we're going to resume testing too.
I saw that and was kind of horrified about it, modernizing the nuclear force. I wonder where the tests are going to be.
Yeah, me too. And I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
I don't think that I don't think there's a plan, actually. I think this is one of those things that Trump says something, but it's really just off the cuff, and it's a posturing. It's a bargaining chip. He says it so that our enemies suddenly think, "Uh-oh, the United States is getting ready to do this thing. We, better be afraid, be very afraid." So, who knows?
Well, I think that the real news from China is that Trump and Xi agreed that they would not do any tariff war for a year. They're putting off the tariff war for a year, and that has been characterized as Trump backing down and Xi winning. So we'll see.
That's funny because my initial reaction to that is that it was what Trump wanted, but I don't think Trump's ego allows him to be characterized as backing down.
Mm-hmm.
He got what he wanted, but excuse me, but he doesn't want it to look like he was outsmarted or outmaneuvered or outnegotiated. But that's just me. That's just my interpretation of Trump and his ego.
No, that goes with Professor Zhang very well. Professor Zhang says Trump is absolutely dependent upon his Messiah status. He's Jesus, in the minds of the ignorant masses who voted for him. He's Jesus, and he's got to maintain that aura of "I'm here to save everything. Everything's under control, and I'm going to take care of it." And if he ever loses that aura, then he's in really big trouble, because all those lawsuits are going to come back. The criminal charges are going to come back. He's going to end up spending the rest of his life in jail, because once he loses that aura of invincibility, which comes from his messianic status, according to Professor Zhang, that he is going to fall, and he knows he's going to fall. So that's why he has to keep on, re-upping his greatness and running for the third term, supposedly, right? Although Zhang says, well, he's just going to run his son. He'll be the vice president, so he'll get past the law. He'll just let.
Oh my gosh!
Don Jr. will.
Why am I so stupid? Of course, I hadn't even thought of that.
You're thinking just like Professor Zhang, aren't you?
No, but it's been done so many times before. I mean,
yeah.
What was her name? I want to say Lurleen Wallace. George Wallace's wife, who ran when he was no longer eligible. She ran, and he basically had the job, but she was the one that had the title.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't Trump do that? Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It never even occurred to me.
Just put Don Jr.,
Don Jr.? Yeah. Wow. Oh, that's a scary, scary thought.
See, that's where I draw the line. I don't think that he's going to do that. I think that would be just too over the top of, I'm a dynasty. No, America wouldn't stand for it.
I don't know. There's so much about Trump that I thought could never happen that has indeed happened. So
let me just not, before we leave that.
Okay.
Professor Zhang also has this big point that the elites on the left absolutely hate Donald Trump. That they have, and he says that TDS, they have Trump derangement syndrome.
Okay.
They are all so incensed at him that they're not thinking straight, and their only goal is to dethrone Trump. And because of that, the threat of Trump 3 or Trump with Don Jr., or the idea that somehow Trump's regime would extend another 4 years is going to cause them to create the civil war.
Okay. I'm not liking this professor too much. I think that, his speculation about what we might or might not do as a country and who we are as a country is beginning to annoy me. And I find him to be not that important.
Okay.
Sorry to say.
No, that's fine. But I just file it under Know Your Enemy, because I think he is giving a narrative that is being sold to people on the left in this country right now.
Right. But there's a lot of narratives that are being sold to people in this country that have been going on for a long time. And it's not high school teachers, it's journalists. So, I don't think that this guy is going to be any more important than any of the others who are spinning tales. So Brightmore says Candace Owens is claiming that potential Egyptian operatives were on the ground at Kirk's killing. I don't know who Candace Owens is.
Candace Owens is one of those social media phenomena that, to me, suddenly appears on my Twitter feed maybe 3-4 months ago. And she has got all the scoops on things like Charlie Kirk. And she's a very good presenter. She's a very attractive young Black female. And she gets scoops and hot tips on things. And she's getting quite a reputation for that. I'm very skeptical that she's somebody that we can rely upon because of just that phenomenon that I just described. But other people may know more than I do. That's just what my experience has been. And it's just like how, suddenly there's an Alex Jones and you watch him for a little while and you say, wait a minute, this is obviously produced. And, so I think that's my concern about her.
And what is the significance of Egyptian operatives?
Well, of course, that would mean that there were professional shooters there. It wasn't just this kid.
Okay.
And,
an Egyptian, Egyptian, I guess, is the piece that I'm not, there could be professional shooters but why Egyptian professional shooters? Is that
Well, I don't know
meaningful?
why. It's meaningful that they would come so far, you
Right.
know. It's
Right.
meaningful that it's an Arab country. It's meaningful
Okay.
that, you know, that they are probably professional assassins, I would think. But you know, again, anything about Charlie Kirk, I'm like, you know, they're never going to tell us. They're never going to tell us.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
It's just like JFK. They can't tell us that there really is a murder incorporated operating in the world, and that it is so good and it works with the CIA because they have plausible deniability. And so they're so good at covering things that they'll never be found out. And plus, the government has a duty under NSC 10/2 to make sure that it's not ever found out. So, you know, when
Exactly.
they built the national security state in 1947 with the National Security Act, and that they really put, you know, this was George Kennan, and this was you know, Kissinger, and the people that wanted to run the country from behind the scenes under the cloak of national security. And that's what's going on right now. It has been ever since.
Lot being said about this in some of the media that I follow. The SNAP food benefits expire today amid the shutdown, which politician will not let this crisis go to waste. Which politicians will not let this crisis go to waste.
That's a quote from never let a good crisis go to waste. I don't know if it was Rahm Emanuel that said it or somebody,
Okay.
but it's just one of those quotes that goes around that says, you know, black swan events is another idea. The same thing, you know. Don't let a black swan event be wasted. So, you know, if COVID happens to happen, make sure and test out all your lockdowns theories while the COVID is happening. You know, you wouldn't want to waste the opportunity.
Well, there's a lot of worry about SNAP benefits. I was a little bit, I have to admit. And again, it just shows how naive I am. I forget the number, you know, what it costs monthly for the country to provide SNAP benefits, but it's, you know, multiple billions. And I don't know.
I saw a chart yesterday that indicated that SNAP benefits the national sum had practically doubled during the Biden administration. So that, you know, the burden on the taxpayer for paying these benefits is not what it was, you know, 8 years ago. It's twice that. And that's a huge item that has to be dealt with in the budget. So I can understand both sides of it. I can see
How
look,
is that? I don't understand what it is that's going on in this country that that many people need SNAP benefits. And if they do, why are we allowing them to use these benefits for consumables that have no nutritional value?
well, I think a lot of people have the answer on the tip of their tongue, and that is illegal immigration. That how the Democrats have allowed, you know, millions of people to come in here and then given them benefits, including SNAP benefits. You know, free.
And it's that easy to get SNAP benefits?
Yeah, if you're an illegal immigrant in a Democratic state, you're going to get them, or even in a Republican state.
Hmm.
California, man,
Hmm.
that's the place you ought to be. Swimming pools, movie stars.
Think you have to strike oil before you get the swimming pools or the cement pond, as it were.
Yeah, a cement pond is a real status symbol.
Oh,
But
look.
no, it is a huge problem for local, especially cities, especially, you know, small towns and counties, you know, that have to pick up the slack.
Oh, yes.
It's a huge burden on, and like I said the other day, I listened to a little bit of NPR this week.
Mm-hmm.
You know, get behind me, Satan. But one of the stories was about Allentown, I think Allentown, Pennsylvania, and they were talking to the mayor about how, when they cut these SNAP benefits off, man, it's going to be a bit ugly because people are going to be in the grocery stores picking stuff up and thinking that they can buy it or that they're entitled to it, and fights are going to break out. And there was
Wait a minute. Who goes to the grocery store and just thinks that they can take things? Don't they have to have little certificates or something saying, here are my SNAP benefits?
Not if
How does that work?
If your babies are hollering at you that they're hungry, you're going to go to the grocery store and say, give me food. And they say, no, your benefits are cut off. You say, well, screw you. I'm taking it anyway. I got to feed my babies.
All right. This whole situation is difficult for me to understand.
Me too. And who knows? It's brinkmanship. It's the Republicans saying it's the Democrats are saying it's the Republicans, and everybody's trying to win points for the next election. And that's the real shame of it, is that our politicians are allowing this brinkmanship to affect completely innocent people, millions of them.
Okay, I'm going to say something really outrageous.
Uh-oh.
If you can't feed your babies, then you shouldn't be allowed to vote.
What's that now? If you can't feed your babies?
Uh-huh. You shouldn't be allowed to vote.
Well, then your babies will starve and there's nothing you can say about it.
Not necessarily. But all right.
No, that's a hard one for me, Marcia.
I just think that there is just the system has gotten out of control. You got to help those who are in need. That I am all in favor of. All in favor of. Is it the job of the government only? I don't know. I mean, I know that around here, I am seeing a lot of calls on social media for people to donate to food banks.
Mm-hmm.
And here are all the food banks, and the food banks are going to need your assistance. So please donate, because people are going to be turning to food banks. And I think it is the responsibility of all of us to help those who are in need. But I am not in favor of creating systems that get votes for corrupt politicians by making people dependent on them.
Well, you didn't like Lyndon Johnson at all then, did you?
Well, I was very little back then, so I didn't have very strong opinions about politics.
I'm just pointing out that he was the king of that. His civil rights bill was entirely geared toward making sure, and he quotes, here's a quote of him saying, that the Negroes will vote for us for 100 years when we pass this.
Well, the civil rights bill isn't about food stamps. So I'm not making a connection there.
Okay, well, we can look it up. You can look it up, but there is that quote.
Oh, I believe the quote, yes, but I don't know what that has to do with food stamps.
Well, it has to do with welfare benefits. It's like, if you've got 3 kids, then you get $600 a month from Uncle
The civil rights bill wasn't about welfare benefits.
Well, what's the bill that I'm trying to talk about then? You can name it for me.
I don't know. The civil rights bill that was passed in 1964 under the Johnson administration had to do with civil rights, with not discriminating against people based on their color.
I'm asking Grok.
Okay, yes.
Grok, what's the law that Lyndon Johnson said when it was passed would guarantee that Black people would vote Democratic for 100 years? The Voting Rights Act of 1965, the quote you're referring to, is a commonly circulated but disputed remark attributed to President Lyndon Johnson upon signing the Voting Rights Act into law on August 6, 1965. So your suspicion that it was not about food stamps is correct. Nevertheless, I think it has a connection, at least in many people's minds, to welfare.
All right, we're going to move on from this.
I mean, my view is that poverty really should be a local concern. I just if there's wealth, in a community, then there shouldn't be poverty in the same community. That's just my general feeling.
Well, I agree with that. And there is poverty. Poverty comes about for a variety of reasons. And it's tied to health, it's tied to mental health, it's tied to education. And all of the causes of poverty need to be addressed to help eliminate poverty. But you're not going to eliminate it completely because there are people who, for whatever reason, health, age, mental abilities, they're not going to be able to provide for themselves. And so society in some form or another does need to create systems to provide for them. But I think that there is an advantage to creating systems that perpetuate the cycle of poverty. And that's what we got to stop doing.
I just want to make it clear that what I'm saying is that when you take a problem like poverty and put it at the national level, then you're completely depersonalizing the problem.
Agreed.
And that leads to abuse.
Mm-hmm.
Because, who cares if somebody in, California does or does not get their benefits, as long as, everything's good with everybody here where I live, and I'm not worried about them. Let them take care of themselves. The natural instinct is, that people should take care of themselves. But when we establish a welfare state, which is the real complaint of most MAGA people, is that we don't want to have a welfare state, because then people become personally dependent upon a politician who will guarantee that their welfare continues.
Exactly.
And that's un-American to me,
yes,
to allow that to happen. So that's why I hope that somehow we can sufficiently take care of people, but not rely on the federal government as the means for it.
Well, it does kind of get back to something that I said a long, long time ago and have repeated many, many times, and that is, a liberal thinks that government is the answer except for when it's not, and a conservative thinks that government is not the answer except for when it is. And I see that so many times. Let the government fix it. Oh no, keep your government hands off my fill in the blank. People want it both ways. They want government to leave them alone, but make it better.
I want government to decide whether everybody has to take a shot for COVID or not.
Right.
No, I don't want government to decide that. I want to decide that for myself.
Exactly.
I just want to have the facts that I can make my decision based upon rationally. But no, the government has decided that the government's going to do that. Well, there's, that's created a huge, split in our country. And people that are sitting on the Democratic liberal side and are wondering why would anybody in their right mind vote for Trump? Well, one of the reasons is that you guys allowed the lockdowns. You guys forced us to take jabs that we didn't necessarily want to take.
Well, the problem I have with that is that all started under Trump, and Trump was president when all of that happened.
No, No, not
The lockdowns?
was it?
Absolutely.
Okay. Nevertheless, I still blame the Democrats for it.
Okay.
That's me.
Okay. Well, we seem to be falling behind here. We have Ron Fox 5519 here today. Hello, Ron. Great to see you here too. Polly's here, as usual. Hello, Polly.
Hi,
From
Polly.
Amsterdam. Thank you for joining us. Brightmore says the punchline is that the Dems are actually floating Governor Newsom as the next president. Yeah, I think that's gone around every cycle. You know, who I heard was being floated as the next candidate is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She has raised a lot of money, none of it from corporations. She doesn't take corporate money. She only takes money from individuals. All the same, she has raised a lot of money, more than anyone else, which I just find shocking.
Individual retail clerks or individual billionaires?
I'm sure both. I am sure both.
Not bad for a bartender.
Well, everybody has to start somewhere.
Yeah, I say not bad.
Okay. Yeah, Prester John says, this administration helps billionaires. It's glaringly obvious at this point. All I could add to that is that every administration helps billionaires. It's been a long time now that the government has been functioning on behalf of the wealthy. They only pretend.
Oh yeah, yeah. During the campaign, you know, it's Bill Gates is a bad guy fighting against the World Health Organization and all, and then after he's the president, he invites him to dinner.
Imagine that. Notes. Welfare in the United States was primarily created by the Social Security Act of 1935, enacted by President Franklin D. Roosevelt during the Great Depression. The act established a federal safety net. There you go, 35.
That's true.
Yeah, yeah. I think that we need to reconsider that safety net and how to provide it without making people dependent on it when they don't have to be.
You mean me?
You're not.
I love my Social Security, man. I wouldn't want.
Well, Social Security is different from welfare.
I'd be going back to work, man, if I didn't have Social Security.
Well, all of us would. All of us old people.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
So I actually think Social Security is a good thing.
All right. Well, we're talking about welfare.
I'm sorry. I thought we were talking about Franklin Roosevelt.
Well, it was the Social Security Act, but it created welfare.
Oh, okay. So the Social Security Act created payments to mothers whose husbands were fighting in World War II or things like that.
Well, this is 1935. I'd have to go back and look.
Yeah.
But the point here, I think, that's being made is that welfare was established in 35.
Yeah, and it's a federal safety net, and that's an example, of something that might, a conservative, a dyed-in-the-wool conservative would object to. Say, no, we don't need a federal safety net. We just need people to be responsible and save up enough money for your old age and have kids that are going to support you.
Well, I don't know about the kids that are going to support you, but yes, I mean, that is the point. But there are going to be people who, for whatever reason, can't do that. So we do need something. But As Prester John says, poverty is tied directly to decision made by people in power who benefit from people in desperation. And that is so well said.
That's right.
Absolutely well said. And Norman Smith says poverty is not a crime, freeloading is. And see, this is my point. There are people who need help.
Yeah.
But there are freeloaders out there too.
Yeah.
And it's the freeloading that has been created and perpetuated that we've got to stop.
There's a great word for that.
Mm-hmm.
Entitlement programs.
Yeah, that's another one of those cute hooks.
It is. It's one of those psychological loaded words that drives people to divide. Say, oh, that's not necessary. That's entitled. That's, helping people that need it.
Right.
Is the intention, but the law itself just creates Uncle Sugar paying out, free money to people.
T-Box. Welcome, T-Box. T-Box says, congressional representatives have been compromised, emphasized, on both sides. And that's it exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And imagine that adds a little bit more history. The welfare system expanded significantly in the 60s under President Lyndon B. Johnson. Great Society programs, which added more programs and increased their reach. You're right, Great Society. That's what he called it.
And it was going to be great, except for they decided to spend all the money on the Vietnam War instead.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. On to a different subject here. Brightmore says Cash's FBI foiled a terrorist attack in heavily Arab Dearborn, Michigan. DOJ announced prison sentences for 2 Russian mobsters who planned to assassinate female Iranian heroine Marcia, I'm never going to say that correctly, Ahmadinejad in New York City. Seems like the news wants the dangerous Iranians on our minds. Okay.
See, this is why I have to say Professor Zhang has been predicting U.S. versus Iran war, for at least 2 years now, saying, yep, that's what Trump's going to do to maintain, his messianic status. He's going to have to invade Iran.
Garden Girl 24 says anti-Trump groups planning to occupy D.C. starting November 5th. Wonder what that's going to look like. Occupy D.C. I hope they're not wearing goofy hats.
It'll be the No Kings people and again, I guess.
If you're going to protest Trump, that's fine. But if you just protest for the sake of protesting, I don't like this, then you're really not doing much good. If you really want to do some good, propose a rational, viable, sensible alternative. Propose some kind of action that we can take to make things better.
Right.
Don't just walk around going, Orange Man bad. Come up with something to make things better or shut up.
And it rang true to me when I read someone commenting that the No Kings Day crowd was basically engaging in group therapy.
Right. Oh, yeah, that's really what it was. You're right. Well, apparently it was so good, they're going to come back for more of it and stick around. I hope somebody has a great big coffee urn that they can have lots of coffee.
And I like the fact that they were patriotic. I liked, how they would say, support the Constitution. That's great. I love that. They don't understand a thing about it, but at least they feel like that the Constitution is still a good thing. And I'm glad to hear that.
Have they read it? Garden Girl notes, National Guard ordered to create quick reaction forces trained in civil unrest, all 50 states.
Yeah.
Who is behind this unrest? Mr. Soros? Question mark. And, we should say all 50 states and the District of Columbia.
I don't know how many that the district has to have, but every state has to have 500 people ready to deploy, because the president has decided that there's going to be somebody's going to try to start something.
Well, I wonder if these two topics are tied together. This Occupy DC and this National Guard trained in addressing civil unrest.
Yeah. But, and again, I don't know if it was 200 million or other people have said billions of dollars were paid by the left-wing billionaires like Soros to the No Kings, to organize the No Kings thing, which it does take a lot of money to organize something like that.
Oh, it does. Absolutely.
And so, again, these people with all this money, that could have just been, their first foray. And the next one is going to be, a little bit more pushy, maybe get into some fights, lock up some people. And, it continued to escalate because, as the professor whose name I won't repeat again says, they absolutely hate Donald Trump, and they will do anything it takes to take him down.
But you and I have seen that. I mean, we've seen that among the liberals that we know, whether it's, interacting with them in person or, reading social media posts. It's just
they've been weaponized, and now the concern is, are the powers that be are going to take advantage of this weaponization by pushing them over the edge into violence? Could happen.
It's so funny. I hear a dog snoring. I don't know if the people out there can hear that or not, but I think, oh my goodness, do people wonder what that noise is? That is Toto snoring. One of the Totos does snore. The smaller one, ironically.
It was Rahm Emanuel that said that. T-Box confirms, yeah.
It said what?
Never let a crisis go to waste. Never let a good crisis go to waste.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, Congress is compromised, and the president's compromised too. They're all compromised, and that is the fruit of the JFK assassination not being solved, because the people that did it have never been held accountable, and they're not going to be held accountable as long as the American people let them get away with it. And that's why we have this Undo the Coup campaign here at McDuff Lives, that we have been very, very aggressive in support in promoting the idea of, let's get, because everybody would benefit if we had a true understanding of the powers that caused the death of President Kennedy and continue the coup to this day.
Somebody said to me, and I can't remember exactly what it was she said, but she said something about, responding, being prepared to respond to shootings, as in the Kennedy assassination. And, and I had to say to this person, of course they were prepared because they knew about it. It wasn't a surprise.
Yeah.
And, of course the person looked at me like I had three heads.
But most people in the American public, according to many polls, are suspicious of it and want to have, we don't believe that it was a single shooter, and we don't believe in the magic bullet, in the zigzag theory.
Norman says, and, I so get it. Government jobs are bureaucratic welfare, obviously. And I think that one of the things that has distressed me so much with this government shutdown is all of this pity for the poor government workers. And I know that, living here in the Washington, D.C. area, a lot of these government people who are without jobs right now or working without pay are our neighbors and members of our community. But for so long, we have seen how bloated the government is. And, I don't agree that everybody who works for the government is corporate welfare, but there is a lot of unnecessary um, hiring in the federal government, and the government has become much bigger than it needs to be. And I think that, yeah, it is a form of welfare. It's a very interesting point. And T-Box also brings up, oh, wait, that was the wrong one. This is where it started with T-Box. Come on. I don't know why this is. Anyway, there we see. Can't wait to see what Larry Ellison tries with Tick Toxic, which I think is, I'd never heard that, Tick Toxic. And then goes on to say that would be Larry Ellison's son, who he bequeathed the responsibility. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, well, it's going to be pro-Israel, whatever it is.
Oh, Garden Girl says, I believe SNAP benefits now include a 20-hour work requirement for those adults under 65. I do recall that was in, I believe that was in the big, beautiful budget bill. And that was one of the controversies in the big, beautiful budget bill. I had forgotten about that. And I love that. Absolutely. You want benefits? You got to work at least 20 hours a week. And that's as it should be.
All right. I want to put Norman up here just because I like this. So the only legitimate purpose of government, from Norman Smith, is to protect our rights. If they do anything beyond that, they are breaking the law. Well, I think you're right. And I think, we are entitled to the defense. We are entitled to have a sufficient military and a sufficient government to keep that going. But main job is to make sure that we are able to fulfill our promise as individuals, as humans, as citizens of a free republic. And so I think that I amen to you, Norman. That's my view as well.
Harley would disagree. It's one of the things that Harley talks about a lot is that the role of the government is to create an infrastructure for commerce.
Okay. All right. And that's an interesting discussion that we're going to have to postpone. But I think you're absolutely right that Harley would disagree. And the whole idea of the American system, we could not have built this country without government help in putting together the railroads and putting together the factories and
the interstates
and combining the capital with the first bank of the United States. If you might not like Alexander Hamilton, but the fact is, without that, we'd probably all have just been reincorporated into the British Empire within a couple of years.
But I also, in having said that, I also don't want to diminish what Norman points out, and that is that the government has way overreached its role. And that's a very good point, Norman.
All right. Well, I think we better not overreach our hour this morning. So,
ooh, nice segue.
Thanks, Marcia, for being with us again. We've missed you the last couple of weeks, and I'm glad to have you back. Everybody, have a great weekend. We will see you Monday right here at
Happy
McDuff
Halloween.
Lives. Happy Halloween.